Okay, today I'm going to talk about an old game called Siege of Avalon, and probably not a lot of you have heard of it because the company went out of business not long after the game was finished, and the game never really became popular. And some of that may be due to the way the company decided to release it. They wanted to release it by episodes and sell each episode separately, and there were 6 of them. And they're so short that they didn't really warrant the price, so eventually the company just combined them into one thing and sold that, and that's what I'm going to talk about. So some of the good things, the storyline and the dialogue are probably things that stand out the most. The storyline, even though it's a pretty generic fantasy storyline, it's well written, it fits where it's set in, and it does a good job of drawing you in. And I'd explain the storyline, but I don't think I'd be able to fit it in one video and make sense, so I'll move on to the dialogue. There is a ton of dialogue in this game. If you say one thing to a character, they'll respond to you in paragraphs. So if you do not like reading, you will hate this game. Me personally, I love reading, and dialogue was really well written. It made the characters likable, and it was pretty believable. Of course, there were some cheesy sayings, but I guess you get that in all games. And the only problem I had with the dialogue was what your options to say. Like, you only get one option most of the time, so it's not really an option, it just drives it by itself. Sometimes you'll get 2 options, but they never really change anything in the story, so it doesn't really matter. So you don't really get to create your own story, but I think that's what the company had in mind. They wanted you to play their story and not create your own. I mean, their company was named Digital Tome, so that explains a lot. Some of the things I do not like about this game, there are a lot. First of all, combat is pretty annoying. There are a lot of things that combat relies on, like the type of armor you wear determines how fast you are, how likely you are to hit. Yeah, there are a lot of annoying things in this game, especially with combat. And there aren't as many spells as I'd like. I guess the spells they have are okay, but I think it'd be better with more. And the thing I absolutely hate most about this game is the difficulty curve. It starts off impossible. You will die so many times in the first chapter, it's not even funny. I stopped counting after 50, and I played this game probably 4 times through. But after the second chapter it gets too easy, so I think that's the one big problem I have with this game. And also the AI is another big problem. Like, they'll run in and get themselves killed in pretty much every encounter, and they'll have no problem friendly firing on you. They'll hit you with a fireball or something and kill you. It gets pretty annoying after the 10th time. And I guess the good thing is you can take control of them, but you can't control more than one character at once, so you're going to be stuck with 2 crappy AI eventually. The graphics though, the graphics are pretty good. They're along the same vein as Baldur's Gate. They're pre-rendered 3D graphics. I think they're a little smoother than Baldur's Gate, but they don't have the same detail. The environments are the outside environments especially are pretty detailed. The characters themselves aren't really though. They're just pretty much their skin and armor and stuff in this one solid color. But it's still okay for the time. And speaking of armor, that is one thing I loved about this game. You could layer on armor like nothing else. My gosh, you could put on so much armor. It was more customizable than I think any game I've ever played before that. Like, you could put on chainmail under your cuirass, and then put pauldrons on top of that, and then a cape. It was really customizable. And the sound was okay. It wasn't really that great, but it wasn't really that bad either. I think the music was actually composed by someone else and they bought it off of them. And the sounds, they sound like stock sounds, but you know, that's okay. The game isn't really driven by its music and sound. And the enemies are okay. But like I said before in the beginning, the enemies will destroy you. You have no chance. And the bosses, well, they're pretty good. There are a few that stand out as impossible. In the first chapter, there's a lieutenant enemy, and he will destroy you. He just casts hold on you, and then fireball, you're dead. You don't have any chance to do anything. Unless you're a mage and cast hold on him first, you're going to be reloading a lot to beat him. There's another one, a zombie of a scout that you have to kill. and it can take out your whole team in just a couple hits. So pretty much the only way to take it out is run and gun. You have to run away, cast spells, or shoot arrows at it. So some of the bosses are pretty annoying. But overall, the bosses, well, they're pretty good. They're entertaining, and except for those two, I can't think of any that are too overpowered. The last boss, well, it's not really overpowered. Fighters have a real challenge against them, because both mages and rogues have a way of countering the last boss, while the fighter doesn't at all, so you have to pretty much rely on luck to beat the last boss with the fighter. But that's all I have to say about the game. I'll leave some clips in here so you can watch it. Thanks for watching.